Hi, and welcome to the Boat Princess podcast. My name is Nikki Vo, and I'm your host. I'm a boat owner, a marinas owner, an international conference presenter, and a huge advocate for boating. I'm sharing the stories from every nook of the boating industry with the intention of encouraging more women to join me and for more women to get behind the helm too. I want to share the experience and opportunities of boating, of the boating industry, and I want you to join me as I bring the conversations and answer all the questions you've had. Boating is not just for the glamorous and rich and famous. It's full of beautiful and interesting people making the most of our natural environment and getting out there enjoying the waterways. So let's let off the lines, take over the helm, and escape to the world of boating. Welcome everyone to another episode of the Boat Princess podcast. I am here today on a beautiful French terrace overlooking La Rochelle because we're here at the ICOMIA Congress, and I have one of our superstars here who I usually have a lot of fun with, and now we're having a bit of a serious moment on a podcast. Although it shouldn't be too serious because it's our podcast, right? So Ann Dunbar, Executive Director of IBEX, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's quite an honor to be here with you, Boat Princess. I've been a fan for years.
Oh, thank you so much. Ann, you've been in this industry quite a while. Give us a quick synopsis of your current role, because some people that are listening may not know what IBEX is, may not know what IFBSO is. So maybe let's start with those and explain those.
Right. So I am, as you said, the Executive Director of IBEX. IBEX is the International Boat Builders Exhibition and Conference. It's the largest marine technology trade show in North America. For your listeners who are in Europe or in the global marine industry, they might be familiar with Met's Trade. So that's my sister show. So IBEX serves the North American marine market, and Met's serves the rest of the world, basically. Met's does own half of IBEX. So we are here at the ICOMIA Congress. I was the president of International Federation of Boat Show Organizers, which is IFBSO, until yesterday, where I stepped down because I had served my 2 years. And the next predecessor was actually coincidentally Nils Clarenbeck from Met's Trade. So we're here representing the leading boat shows in the world. This is a community of boat show organizers that come together and share ideas and inspirations and ways to improve. As you know, live events took a big hit during COVID, and that made this IFBSO a real great place to come and share ideas. During COVID, we actually all got on Zoom calls all the time. How's it going in your country? How's it going in your country? When live shows were completely shut down, it was jarring, and we were all canceling. So how do you deal with that financially? How are you helping your staff through this? The amount of support and friendship and interest, that we got from this community during COVID was invaluable. And now we get to come together and do it in person again, which is great. So yeah, it's been as you know, it's been a nice Congress. It's been a lot of information.
Yeah. And IFBSO,
It's a tongue twister.
It is, isn't it? Actually celebrated 60 years this year, didn't you? Because there was the cake last night and everything.
Yeah. So which just validates the strength of this organization. Live events, especially boat shows. I run a trade show, but the majority of members are regular boat shows. You've the Sydney Boat Show. You've got almost every major boat show in Europe. In the United States, it's the Miami Boat Show in Fort Lauderdale. So again, just a community and camaraderie between this leadership. Yeah. For 60 years, and it's going to continue on because it just matters. It matters. Coming together and sharing ideas matters.
It does. And the relationships between the boat shows all over the world. And the boat shows are kind of the heartbeat of the boating industry. So they're really important to...
Yeah, it's the front line.
Yeah.
So the other half, as you know, of ICOMIA is the Marine Industry Associations, and they represent each country's boating interests. So you need the boat shows to get the people out on the water and to see the product. And then you need the governing association to make sure that there's water access, that there's docks, that it's safe, that the fish are protected, all of the important things when it comes to life on the water.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
So you've been doing this a while.
Yeah, too long. A long time. Yeah.
How did you first get into the boating? Well, let's go back a little bit further. What was your education base? What did you think you were going to do, and what did you end up doing?
Yeah, I it's a funny question. I grew up in Connecticut, so and I grew up on boats. My dad bought a little wooden sailboat. I think the first day we went out, we ran aground, and I've loved it ever since. So we grew up on boats, little sailboats, and then I continued to do that through most of my schooling, and I ended up moving to Los Angeles. I got a degree in communications and filmmaking.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, and I moved out to LA because I wanted to get into movie making, not being a movie star. I wanted to be behind the scenes, production, camera work. So I moved to LA, and I'm not going to give you the dates, but it was video. There was MTV was going, so there was video had grown. So there was opportunities, but it was all very new. So this is, it was very difficult to break into that industry as a woman. Mm-hmm. And unless you had a contact, mm-hmm. and I didn't. So I taught sailing at a yacht club in Long Beach, California, and was struggling to make ends meet. And somebody said, hey, the boat show, Long Beach Boat Show's coming. Do you want to, and there's a magazine called Soundings, and they need someone to work the booth. Can you do that? It's a 10-day show. And I was like, sure. I've never been to a boat show. And what are they paying? And it was $7 an hour. And I was like, woo, I'm rich. So I'll take that job. And so I took the job and I worked that boat show, and I had so much fun just interacting. Boat shows are it doesn't matter if you're behind the booth or you're walking the aisles. Boat shows are just a lot of fun. And I loved boats. So when that show ended and I still didn't have a job, the gentleman that hired me and, paid me my $7 an hour said, hey, so what are you doing? Do you want to come work for us? And I said, well, what would I do? And he said, you'll sell advertising. And I said, what does that mean? Like, what does that even mean? And I was just so young. I didn't know that when you read a magazine that people were buying the ads. Mm. So it was a big eye opener for me. And I was like, well, how do I do it? And he said, you just go around, we'll give you a list of companies and you just go around and you sell ads. And Nikki, you know me, I'm a massive extrovert. So I was like, I can do that.
Yeah.
And so that's what I did. That was my break into the marine industry. And so I worked for them. And of course I did great, because I just went around talking to people and selling ads and going to more boat shows. And but I didn't like Southern California because it was sunny every day. Every day. Blue sky. It didn't rain. It drove me crazy. My neighbor took her windshield wipers off her car one day. And I said, what are you doing? She said, oh, I'm just taking them off. I'm like, you can't do that. What if it rains? She goes, it's not going to rain. Like that was the mentality. And at that point I thought, I don't think I can live here permanently. So I moved back to the East Coast. And I worked in Manhattan and New York City because that's what everybody does when you grow up in New England. And I worked for a massive ad agency. Okay. And I learned a lot there. Yeah. And then Soundings called and said, hey, what are you doing? Where'd you end up? Do you want to come work for us up in Newport, Rhode Island? And I said, Newport, I'm in. So I started basically, I could go on and on, but my career started in ad sales. Yeah. And back then it was just print. And then we started selling, and I look back on this and it's hilarious. We would sell faxes. So faxing, this was like in the late 90s.
Oh, like selling a newsletter today.
What's
like selling a newsletter today?
Yeah, but that was it for technology. So my opportunity to sell was print and maybe a special edition, like a show directory or something. And then we would get people's fax numbers and we would fax ads to them.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, people hated it. And then, so I was in ad sales. I ultimately ended up with IBEX in the early 2000s. I'd wanted to go work for Professional Boat Builder magazine, which is the beginning. This is where IBEX began, is with Professional Boat Builder magazine. And they offered me a job to come work there and said, but you need to work on IBEX. And I said, I don't know anything about shows. And my soon-to-be boss said, I'll teach you everything you need to know. And he was a fabulous guy, Carl Kramer, just an innovator and really outside-the-box thinker. So I went to work for Carl and a fabulous team. And so I've been with IBEX now since 2001, 2002. But I started just an exhibit sale. So then that was the other thing is, how do you make money? You sell exhibit space.
Yeah.
And so that's how I began. And then I got into marketing and then was just there long enough that when the time came, they just said, you need to be the one that runs the show. Actually, I was going to quit because I didn't think the show was being well directed.
Yes.
And they said, do you remember Tom Domerick?
Yes.
Yeah. So I went to him and said, he was my boss at the time. And I said, you know what? The guy who's running the show, this isn't working. And I think I'm out of here. And he said, well, tell me what's wrong. So I told him. And he said, okay. And he said, well, why don't you do it? And I was like, what? So it was one of those, you know what, my favorite thing about telling that story is it was, for anybody that's out there looking for a job, you get that lucky break. So he elevated me from, a woman just working hard in a male-oriented industry to a leadership position. So I broke through that glass ceiling at that moment. And I will always be grateful to him. And it scared the bejesus out of me.
Yeah.
But then it goes back to you fake it till you make it. Yeah. Right. So that's the other great lesson was, you got to find that moment and that mentor, and then you fake it till you make it, and that's exactly what I did. And here I am today.
So really you transferred from selling space in magazines to space in boat show. And then from there you elevated to organizing that whole thing because you were on the ground, as it were, seeing what was going on with it.
Right. Saw how
you could see what the issues were.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. From, show setup, from operations to catering. It's basically event management. So it's, somebody said to me, I could go run a wedding too. And actually last summer I volunteered stupidly to help run a gala. And it was 350 people. And it was, so easy for me. And everyone was like, you're so calm. You're so calm. And I'm like, trust me, I deal with a lot bigger issues on my day job, Yeah. Because we get, up to close to 8,000 people through the door at IBEX. So it's a big, big event. So for me, running a little 350 person gala, the only issue there was it was just a lot of very wealthy people. So they were hard to keep happy.
Yeah.
And that's, I really admire wedding and planners.
Yes.
Yeah. And that, again, so it's event planning, but the spectrum of what you can do in event planning is massive. So I'm at the higher level and we're only a medium-sized show, but there's huge, huge shows. So if anybody's looking for a really fun career, event planning, and it's not just my side of the event ownership, I contract out to vendors. So there's the show decorator has a huge team of people, catering, AV. There's just so many levels of large events that anybody could be part of, and they're not going away. Events matter, and people love going out for that experience. So. They
really do. I know in COVID we missed boat shows, not only for the ability to show the boats, but the fact that we all got to see each other again.
Yeah.
Which was actually a very important part of what we do.
Absolutely.
Having those relationships between each other.
Absolutely. Yeah. The before COVID, and this is a really interesting fact, the event industry was petrified about the internet taking over and ruining live events. Everybody thought, with the internet, people are just going to be online and they're never going to want to go to a live event. And then COVID happened and Zoom happened,
Mm-hmm.
which of course is a fabulous tool for all of us, but
Absolutely.
we get Zoom fatigue. So Zoom helped us through. But as soon as live events opened up, my favorite IBEX was, so COVID was 2020, 2021. The only reason I was able to have a show was we were in Florida and Governor DeSantis didn't believe in COVID. So I don't know if you remember, Florida was open.
Mm.
IBEX is based in Tampa, Florida. We have a beautiful convention center. We take up all three levels. It's right on the water. We have all the docks. It's really just a magical experience. And we were able to open in 2021 during the Delta variant because
Wow.
Governor DeSantis was like, yeah, everything's fine. So how do you get people to come to a show when, you know, everybody's still frightened? So we were not allowed to say masks are required. You know, on flights, masks were required. In airports, masks were required. But once you crossed into Florida, anything went.
Yeah.
So we put out, we wanted to have a show. So we wrote, we respectfully request that you wear masks. Mass respect, you know, with respect, we ask you to wear masks.
Yeah.
And nobody did. Not one person did.
There you go.
And we actually made IBEX masks to give away. Nobody wore a mask. And it just kind of was how Florida was.
Yeah.
And people loved that show. Everybody was very appreciative because they missed seeing everybody. And they missed the business that happened. You know, you can't do the same thing online. You miss that interaction and seeing and touching the products. And that's what IBEX is all about, new technology. So people want to touch it. So that was a great show.
How did you feel as the show organizer, though? Were you a little bit nervous that something could dreadfully happen as a result of it?
Well, and we'd heard about other shows that were super spreaders.
Yeah.
There was a show just a few months before, I won't name the show, in Florida, and everybody got COVID.
Yeah.
You know, swaths of people. And we were like, oh, goodness, what are we going to do? How can we do this responsibly? And the pressure was very heavy. Have the show. People, if you build it, they will come.
Yeah.
So we did, and we were very strict about, we had, you know, the website was completely changed, a lot about safety, because everybody's health was our priority.
Yeah.
So that's why we said we respectfully request that everyone wear masks.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't. And in the end, I don't think anybody got sick. We were just past, you know, that strain of whatever the virus was at that time.
Mm.
So, yeah, that was really a crazy time for events. If you talk to anybody in show management, that was just not a good time. It wasn't a good time for a lot of businesses.
No.
But yeah.
Yeah, a lot of businesses were going through that whole do we, don't we?
Yeah.
Weren't they, basically?
Yeah.
I remember the Sydney Boat Show, the decision had to be made. And it has to be made quite a long way out from when the actual show is,
you have
of
your
course, don't
contracts,
you?
right?
Yeah.
Right.
So, and it was a really tough decision. But when we got to the actual time of Sydney Boat Show, Sydney was in complete and utter lockdown. So had that decision not been made, that would have been a disaster.
Right.
Yeah. So in actual fact, that was a very hard decision. It was my husband that had to make it at the time. And it had to be made. But my goodness, if he hadn't made it, the BIA would have lost an extraordinary amount of money.
Well, and you just don't want to put
as
people,
would all the people involved.
Yeah, right. You don't want to put anyone at risk.
No.
So yeah, I remember having to make that decision during COVID, and I remember, unfortunately, I've had to make that decision more than once, which is exhausting. Mm-hmm. But for COVID, I remember having the board of directors on the phone, and remember, we all thought it was going to end. Oh, this will be over. So it was March, April, May, June now. Oh, it'll be over. And my show is end of September. So we canceled, I believe, in July. And I had the board of directors on the phone, and I said, we have to cancel.
Yeah.
We're canceling. And it was just really quiet. And they all knew, you know, it just was a really hard, and then it's messy. It's a big business mess though. But great things came out of it for us.
Yeah.
Because I remember, we have a product now, we call it IBEX 365. Our exhibitors can have access to all the people that come to IBEX, plus all the people that don't, who follow us online, which is an opt-in list. We have like 41,000 marine professionals who are watching what's happening with IBEX. So they buy into IBEX 365. So when COVID happened, there's a silver lining, and the silver lining for us was new business ideas. We don't want to just be a 3-day show. We want to be 365 days. And what might that look like? And it was creating this new product that came out of being so frustrated that we canceled COVID and we had no solution for our customers who all had new products. And we thought, shame on us for not having created an online platform where they can, get their products out regardless of the live event. Because everybody wants to come to IBEX because it's, boat shows and trade shows, they're just a good time, just like this event. This is a fun industry, as you know. And it's interesting because both of my daughters, as you know, because you've met them both,
have
been exposed. Have been exposed. So, you're looking at 20-somethings have been exposed to this industry. So Caroline even said to me last night, she said, wow, this is what you do. This is when you're on the road and you're just, these people are so amazing and fun. And I think that's just, the marine industry, I think, is it's a tight industry, and it's all about relationships. And we just, we like having a good time.
Yeah, I said to Darren last night after the night last night, which was the gala dinner for the ICOMIA Congress, and we had to picture it for everybody listening. We had a really lovely evening. We had oysters on the terrace at the marina.
The new yacht club.
At the New York Club.
It's brand
new yacht club here at La Rochelle, and which is incidentally the largest marina in Europe with something like 5,147 berths, which is just mind-blowing. And
the majority of them are sailboats.
Yes.
Which is so refreshing to see. I am a sailor. I mean, I love all boats, but it's very, if you look at any large marina in the U.S., the majority are powerboats.
Absolutely.
No doubt.
Absolutely.
But here in France, it's all about sailing.
Yeah. It's very cool. Very cool. So there we were on the terrace, and then we had this lovely dinner, sit down, and with special guests and so on and so forth. And then we all went upstairs to this fabulous band that were playing. They were absolutely brilliant. And we were dancing, and I came home at the end of the night, and I said to Darren, gosh, that was like being at a family wedding because we're all such family, aren't we? And we see each other every year at these events, and we are all, so we're all dancing together, and we're all from all countries all over the world, and we're just having fun together.
Absolutely.
And I think it's a beautiful thing that this industry does.
Yeah.
We had a really nice night, but it really genuinely felt like a family wedding because everybody was having a good dance together.
And what I like the most about it is seeing the newer young people to come in, right? So and a lot of young women.
Absolutely.
And I loved how they approached the party. It was the 60th anniversary, so the theme was 60s.
Yes.
And so we got a whole spectrum of 60s outfits. But I noticed a lot of the younger women went to vintage shops and got these killer dresses.
Yes.
I wish I'd thought of that.
Yeah.
You look fabulous, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Isle of Wight special. Yeah, I went to Isle of Wight especially to get my outfit.
But, seeing a lot of these seeing women and young women coming into the industry for me is really satisfying. Because when I started, it was, I was one of the few.
Yeah. Was that your first hippie moment last night in that hippie outfit?
Yeah.
Yeah. You were a hippie for the first time.
Yeah. Yeah.
You look great.
Yeah. Yeah. I wanted to find 4 people and do the Beatles because I Googled, because I was like, give me 60s music icons. I thought, we'll go as a music icon. I wish I had just done fashion though. Because the vintage shops really, they knocked it out of the park. And then the one who did, Trudy did Audrey Hepburn.
Oh, that was brilliant,
Breakfast
wasn't
at Tiffany's. Oh, she walked out. I was like, oh, God, that's just brilliant.
So good.
Yeah, very clever.
Lots of things are happening at the Boat Princess, and something really exciting that we have coming up is you'll be able to listen to exclusive content by subscribing to us. So watch this space. It's going to be exciting. I'm excited. I'd like to thank our sponsors, Quality Marine Clothing, for the amazing clothing they do for us, all logoed for the Boat Princess. We love that. They, of course, are the place to go to for uniforms for your super yacht crew, your marina crew, or frankly, anybody that's got a company that needs uniforms. Quality Marine Clothing is the place to be.
But, I look at these women, these young women, and I remember being at a party many, many years ago, and a gentleman, he was the president of a very large marine company, and he's talking to me, and I was like, whoa. And he said, hey, so, I've been watching you. You've been in the industry now for several years, and you seem to be doing great. And I'm wondering, he said, I have a theory. And I said, so I'm thinking, okay, where's this going? And he said, do you have any brothers? Do you have brothers? And I said, as a matter of fact, I do. I have 2 big brothers. And he said, that's my theory. You're playing out my theory. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, I watch young women come into this industry. And now we're talking back in the 90s, right?
Mm-hmm. There weren't many of us then.
No. And he said, I've watched women come in, and most of them don't make it for a variety of reasons. And he goes, but then there's some that do. And you're one of them. And my theory is because you grew up with brothers. So you are not intimidated by men. And you can survive in this environment because you grew up with brothers. And I said, oh yeah, brothers who, constantly, I was the baby. So constantly, we'd be in the backseat of the car and they're beating on me and, I'd be fighting back. So I'd never thought about that dynamic in growing up. And then I had 2 daughters, and I thought, how do I make them tough and confident like I was because of my brothers, punching me in the backseat of the car all the time. I think I've done a good job.
You have done a good job.
Yeah, but I think that's, I always found that really fascinating. So I just, now the industry is much more welcoming. There are more young women, so many opportunities too, in this industry, as you know. So yeah, I like seeing it.
So let's unpack that a little bit. What do you think you have done to make because your daughters are both very confident and very, because I was talking to Caroline on the boat the other day, and, she's got this real focus of what she wants to do.
Very, very focused.
And she's doing the work to get there kind of thing. So what have you done and it's really interesting what she does. She's doing the fisheries. Research in fisheries, saving fish in the season, and then she's
national ski
patrolling in the other season because she hasn't got a full year of work from the fisheries. So fantastic and really interesting that she's testing these fish, and then they're and we're talking in various allocated spaces. They've decided to pick a river that they're going to study, and then they find that they're missing a protein in these fish, and then they change their food and blah, 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 blah. And then the next year they're testing, what's happened to that breed and so on. So fascinating stuff. So what do you think you've done? I mean, apart from we always say that kids do what you do, not what you say. And you are obviously a very strong icon as a working woman that's doing her thing and doing it really well. So is there anything else you've added to that, do you think, in particular?
That's a really interesting question. I think my mom raised me she was the ultimate first feminist. So she actually was in university. So this is in the 50s. And she left Boston University to go work to be a stewardess for this new company called TWA. She wanted to be a flight attendant and she wanted to travel. So here she is, raised very conservatively. Women in the 50s, you were a nurse, you were a teacher. Secretary. I mean, that was it. And this new opportunity came up. And to get the job, you had to be beautiful. You had to have looks and a personality. And that was the job requirement.
Wow.
So she gets the job and she tells her parents, I'm moving to New York City to fly out of JFK. I'll be living in a house with other, the TWA, they made it so there was housing for these young women. You couldn't be married. You had to be single and beautiful and effervescent and fun. And I actually have seen her reports, written reports of her, her reviews. Janet, her name is Janet. Janet's hair is always perfect. Her nails look nice. The customers love her. She's very, she's fun. She's very talkative. And then there's all these notes from passengers, thanking her. A lot of them were men, hitting on her. But she had a ball, and her job was simply to entertain people because everybody was afraid of flight. The plane she was flying was called the Continental. The Continental. It was a prop plane. Mm-hmm. I think it had 2 props on the wings.
We still have those in Australia.
Yeah. Okay. There you go. If you're actually at JFK now, they have a TWA museum.
Yeah.
If you have a layover there, and they have a TWA museum and boutique hotel, and they actually have a Continental out and back. So it was fascinating to go in. I was like, this is what my mom did.
That would have been great.
Yeah. So she did that and had just a ball, but it was little hops. So it was, New York to Dayton to, Indianapolis, because air travel was just beginning. So they smoked, she'd light cigarettes, she made cocktails. And the whole point was make it an enjoyable experience with beautiful, flight attendants serving your needs. And I don't think they had food because the flights were so short, but it was always smoking and drinking. And she met all these famous people, and she met my dad.
Nice.
So the fateful flight. And he was traveling with a colleague. They'd finished college and they were flying to interviews. He was an engineer. They asked her to dinner. And my dad tells the story for years that he got on the flight and he looked up and he saw the most beautiful woman he'd ever seen in his life. And he fell in love just like that. Meanwhile, my mom was looking at his buddy. And she always tells, I was looking at Fred. And we were family friends with Fred for years. But she got engaged and she had to quit.
Oh, wow.
Yep. So this is what, to any woman who's listening to this, any of your listeners, we're standing on the shoulders of the women. Like my mom, she broke out.
Yeah.
She wanted to travel and do more. Her parents were completely against this, but she did it. And what happened then is the Equal Rights Amendment came in the 70s. Now, at this point, she was forced to quit. Mm-hmm. When the Equal Rights Amendment came, it was in the 70s. TWA had to go back to all of those flight attendants that they had forced to leave and pay them.
Wow.
And or bring them back with seniority. Yeah. And at that point, she had 3 kids. She had finished her college degree. She was getting her master's. She was like, forget it. But she would have gotten the senior route. She would have been flying, traveling, doing all the fun stuff. But she opted to stick with us, with the family. But, what I would say and this circles back to my daughters. And, they knew her, sadly she's passed. But she would tell them, these stories. And so I stand on her shoulders because she would say to me, I'd say, can you teach me how to make the spaghetti sauce you always make for us? Because I love it so much. And I quote, she said, no, I am not going to make it for you. Because if I teach you to cook, you're going to end up cooking for a man someday. And I don't want to teach you how to cook. So go read a book. Classic. And she's like, you get to college and you do something. And she was always saying, make something and be you, live your life, and don't let anybody hold you back ever, because she was held back so much. And she was looking at me and the opportunities I had, and was just astounded and was just my biggest, supporter. Just loved everything about, the fact that I could go out and do all the stuff that she couldn't do.
Yeah.
And so I feel like my daughters now stand on my shoulders because, there's always discrimination. As a woman, you're always struggling. We don't get equal pay. There's all those levels of women discrimination on so many levels. and we work through it because we're used to it, right? It's just how it's always been for women in business. And so my two daughters, they're standing on my shoulders, and I always said to them, just be smart, decide what you want to do and be you. Don't, let anybody, tell you anything other, just be you. So Caroline's always been very focused on that. And then you've met Catherine. She's, I think she's more of the average young woman kind of coming out of college. She just didn't know what she wanted to do, but she talked to enough people and she ended up, doors opened, and she just stepped through a door and made the most of it. So, yeah. And I think their dad had a lot to do with what their confidence is, because he wouldn't put up with any of the drama, so they'd come in, and Andrew would say, okay, stop. When you can speak to me and give me the facts, I just want the facts, then we can discuss the situation. And it took a while, but then, they'd come to me and, oh my God, what am I going to say? And I said, you need to talk to Daddy, but stop. Think about what you're going to say. What do you want? No drama. And you go to him and you explain the situation. And so they actually got really good at it, and they knew they couldn't go to him with anything other than, all right, here's the situation. So, the car is, I got a dent in the car and I'm not really, it wasn't my, whatever it was that happened. I can't think of what the circumstances were, but we taught them that from a young age. No drama.
Yeah.
Just stick with the facts. And I think that's helped them immensely as young women, because there is no drama. There's no place in business for drama.
No.
Yeah. So I think that's why Catherine's doing so well. She just tells it like it is.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So that's kind of, other than that, I don't know what made them into such special creatures, but I think every mom thinks they're special, So.
Oh, goodness.
They're
Yeah.
kids,
We totally do, don't we?
Yeah.
Totally biased.
Yeah.
But your girls are special. They are pretty amazing. Yeah.
And now they're fighting to come to this conference.
Yeah, because Catherine was at San Remo last year and Caroline was here this year in La Rochelle.
Yeah. And so actually next year, I don't think either will come, because I'm currently interviewing. We're interviewing and we're going to be hiring my replacement. Not that I'm retiring, but I've been moved up into the executive director role.
Yeah.
So I can be up in the higher strategic thinking for the event. And so we're interviewing to replace me. So next year I'll bring my new show director so everybody can meet this new fabulous person.
Yeah.
So I don't think I'll have time to bring a daughter, which I haven't told them about yet. So we'll see.
There you go. Ooh, you heard it here first, girls.
Yeah. So a lot of changes coming in my career,
Yeah.
But I need that. We talked about it a little bit earlier. I can't keep doing it at this level. It's too much work. And I told that to my board of directors. I just said, I'm tired.
Yeah, you mentioned that before we came on to the interview, that you feel that you have very little time for you and at this level of working an event.
Yeah.
It's just
I think
continuous.
Yeah, I think it's lonely at the top. I understand what that means now. I never understood that.
Yeah.
And I think it's a lot of time and effort. And I think probably like most women who work at these levels, it's hard to balance, and I'm just glad I did have two kids, and I have been able to balance it. But I think now that they're gone, that's my problem, right? Is I can't focus more on them as I can focus on the career. And I think I'm wearing myself out. So I want to go off to the spa where everybody was at yesterday, except I was stuck in stupid meetings all day, so hopefully maybe later, but I do think a life-work balance, would be something that I think we all need to have, and you don't want to burn yourself out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it's I think one of the problems we have when we enjoy what we do so much is that we kind of think, oh, it's okay to do that because I need to get it done. And, that's just what it is, right? And in reality, we should actually, I find it incredibly hard to force myself to just do nothing on a weekend.
I can't do it.
I can't do it. Yeah, I'm hopeless.
Yeah, and I'm married to a worker bee.
Yeah.
So he pops out of bed on Saturday morning with announcing, I'm going to go to the farmer's market, and then I'm going to finish up working on the bathroom, and then we need to do laundry. And, there's a whole list, and I'm laying in bed thinking, and we could just lay in bed and read, and then it's funny because we talk to couples. These friends of ours are like, oh, we didn't get out of bed till 11:30. We just read the paper and drank coffee. And I was like, wow, we never do that.
No, we never do that.
Yeah. And I was looking at Andrew going, and he's like, why would they do that? He's a go. Yeah. So, and I'm very aware of it now. So I'm going to I'm pulling back more. Like I am going to stay in bed and read a book.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is funny. When they said that, I was like, what? Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know people did that. You relaxed on a Sunday? We just work all the time. We got to cut the grass. We got to do this. And we have a huge vegetable garden, so that's ramping up. It's exhausting. Yeah.
So you're creating more problems for yourself at the same time.
More problems. And then we bought the huge lawnmower, the big circle turn lawnmower, because we've purchased this big old house a few years ago. So that, again, adding to the workload. And now we've let go the lawn guy because it was too expensive, but we've bought this hugely expensive lawnmower that scares the bejesus out of me. But I drive it. I can drive a boat. Andrew's like, you can drive a boat, you can drive this thing. And it's like, yeah, but this can like cut your foot off.
Yeah.
Like this is dangerous.
Yeah. Boats are just fun.
Yeah. So I'm like the lawn gal now, the lawn gal. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
His wife, the lawn man. Yeah. Never an ending. It is really fun to ride around on anything though. I have to admit.
So you have to interview now somebody that's going to do what you used to do. So what qualities are you looking for there?
Yeah,
that's tough.
It's very difficult. And my first concern is my team. Right. I work with this incredible group it happens to be all women, which I think is ironic because here we are, as women, in telling your listeners that there's not many women in the industry, but in fact it's growing.
Oh, it's growing hugely, really quickly now at the moment.
But weirdly, the IBEX team, and you can look at it on our website, it's all these phenomenal women, and it just kind of happened organically.
Yeah. So is the Mets trade team, by the way, aren't they? There's a lot of women in their team too. Indeed.
Yeah. The Mets trade team is, it is quite a few and young. Yeah. I love the young, fresh women coming. It's great. New ideas and new thinking and so confident.
Yeah.
A lot of confidence.
Yeah.
And there's just social media and digital media and marketing strategies are so great. We just hired 2 younger women. They're amazing. And their ability and their just the way they think about social and digital marketing is incredible. But my team, so when I think about replacing myself, I think about the team because it's this, as in your career, you work with a lot of different people and there's great people. You work on great teams. You work on dysfunctional teams. You work on a great team, but there's one toxic person that's taking everybody down. There's so many different ways that it all works. And as you move through your career, and it's funny, I talked to Catherine about this a lot. She'll call with some work issue and she's seeing, being part of a team, it's different. It's difficult and everybody has their skill set and you have to learn to work with their skills, their strengths and their weaknesses. And that's how you manage it. And then sometimes you find yourself incredibly fortunate in working on a team where it just all melds together. And that's my current team. Incredibly smart, capable, passionate, hardworking. And we all put 150% into the show, and it shows at the show because the show it's just so successful. It's not me. It's this group of this team that's putting together this phenomenal event. And so when I think about who should replace me, I think about them. And I want to make sure that whoever's coming in is going to value this and then, take it to the next level, be able to work with the team. So the decision was made by the board. They want somebody from the outside who's run really big events. And so we've been interviewing a lot of impressive people. And we're down to a few candidates now. And I'm panicking. Frank just asked me the other day, which one are you going to pick? And I'm like, I can't think about it. I'm here. I have a lot going on here at Congress. So I will think about that when I am,
But they're coming from other industries, I'm guessing.
Yeah, well, yeah. In this particular instance, the three finalists are have run really large events in other industries. Yeah. And you can learn boating in the marine industry. Yeah. What we're looking for is somebody who's going to bring an innovative new perspective on running a trade show and then to elevate IBEX to the next level. And we found there's a lot of great people out there. So you'll be hearing about that in the next couple of weeks who our finalists will be.
So that little conversation there says a lot about the type of leader you are.
Does it?
Yeah, because you said the most important thing to me about who I select for my role is the team.
Is my team, yeah, absolutely.
And you also said that this show is an incredible, phenomenal event, and that's down to the team.
Yeah.
So you are constantly giving your team credit and recognizing how much they contribute.
Absolutely.
Which as a leader is what we all hope for and we all wish to see. I mean, I love our teams and it's amazing when you see what they do and what they get into and how they do it, and you think, oh, that was great. And as a leader, you have to be trusting and just let them get on with it and do their thing and step in when you need to, but not. You're obviously not a micromanager.
No, I've been away for a whole week, and I think about them. So if they're listening, they need to know I am thinking about you. But I haven't had a minute. As you know, the schedule is so jam-packed here.
Yeah.
And then we get in so late. I'm not going to start answering emails in the middle of the night because that's never a good idea.
Yeah.
I know it's running. And they know if they need me, they know they can call me. But it's just they're a machine and they are just that good. Each and every one of them doing their part, and that just they just hold it all together, and that's what makes a great team. And it's like I said earlier, I've worked on bad teams, and you don't know when you have a beautiful thing and a great group of people, and so I have a lot of stress about bringing in the right person to make sure that continues.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
Well, thank you so much for talking to me today, Anne. You're an absolute legend. I've always enjoyed spending time with you.
Thank you. It's been really great. It's been really great. And I'm so honored to be part of this. And it might be, like I told you, I don't take the time to listen to podcasts. I might actually listen to this one. I'll try to figure out where to find it and how to play it on whatever device I might find. I'll talk to Caroline about it, right? So aging myself. So thank you, Nikki. It's been great.
No, pleasure. Thank you so much, Anne. So there you go, peeps. Another great interview with another incredible woman in our industry. Just showing you that there are so many now. We are expanding rapidly. So thank you so much for listening, everyone. I really appreciate having your ears. It's lovely to have you send me messages and all those sorts of things. If you could review the podcast, I would really appreciate that, because that allows us to expand our audience dramatically. And of course, if you subscribe rather than just listening, that makes a massive difference also, because we can therefore achieve more sponsorship, and that way we can keep this podcast going for a long time all over the world, interviewing some incredibly interesting guests for you to enjoy. So take care, guys, and we'll see you on the water soon. Empire Marina Bobbin Head, welcome to Sydney's boating paradise. With our idyllic location on Sydney's North Shore, just 35 minutes drive from the CBD, we are all about where it's best to go boating and keeping it as easy and enjoyable as possible for you. We have a full hardstand facility on site, 200 berths, a beautiful bistro, and plenty of parking. If you'd like to know more about berthing your boat with Empire Marinas, call us on 02 9457 9011 or email Jordy, JORDY, at empiremarinas.com.au. We look forward to having you as part of the Empire family. For just $249, we can get you in front of our audience and in front of every listener that listens to that podcast that you advertise on. Now, that's a pretty good specific audience that you'll get in front of. So in addition to that, you might even consider being a season sponsor with us, and that gets you continuous exposure with our brand, on our brand, with our social media channels, and of course, this podcast that goes all over the world.